March 18, 1946, 3:27 a.m. Commander Jack Thompson sat in the Technical Analysis Center of the United States Navy in Portsmouth, Virginia. His eyes were glued to the performance data of the captured Type XXI U-boat U-2518. He was stunned. The AFA batteries had just achieved 17.5 knots of underwater speed, more than 3 times faster than any Allied submarine. The 372 cells per battery delivered 14 to 400 amp-hours. An electrochemical precision that American engineers had deemed impossible. The lead purity grade of 99.994% exceeded anything the U.S. Navy had ever produced by 0.3 percentage points, a difference that could have decided the war. Thompson scribbled in his report, "The Germans have revolutionized submarine warfare. We are 15 years behind." Each word was crossed out and replaced with, "Recommend immediate adoption of all technical specifications." What Thompson didn't know that morning was that these AFA batteries would become the foundation of every NATO submarine for the next 40 years. The situation of Allied submarine batteries from 1939 to 1945 was sobering. Primitive. American Gould batteries in Gato-class submarines achieved a maximum of 8,740 ampere-hours capacity with 252 cells. British Chloride Electrical Storage Company supplied batteries for T-class boats with a meager 10,800 Ah with 336 cells. Underwater speed remained between 4 and 7 knots for all Allied models, slow enough for destroyers to hunt them with ease. The problem lay in metallurgy. Allied lead contained impurities of 0.25 to 0.4%, copper, arsenic, antimony. These trace elements cause self-discharge of 2 to 4% per day. After a week of patrol without recharging, the batteries lost 20% of their capacity. The electrolyte density fluctuated between 1.260 and 1.295. Too broad for optimal performance, plates were 3.2 millimeters thick, with tolerances of 0.2 millimeters. Acceptable for automobiles, catastrophic for military precision, temperature control was practically non-existent. Soviet batteries in S-class boats were even more primitive. 7,200 Ah, massive self-discharge, frequent failures. Then, in May 1945, Allied engineers captured the first Type XXI U-boats in Naval Base Norfolk and New London Submarine Base. What they found in the battery compartments shattered their understanding of electrochemistry. The Type XXI AFA batteries represented an electrochemical breakthrough, culminating 15 years of German research. The Hagen Accumulator Factory, Inc., had been researching high-performance lead-acid batteries since 1930 under the direction of Dr. William Hagen. The result was batteries with specifications that Allied engineers considered physically impossible. Each Type XXI U-boat carried 2 battery compartments, each with 2 batteries. Each battery consisted of 372 cells connected in series. Total capacity per battery, 14,400 amp-hours at a 10-hour discharge rate. This yielded a total storage of 57,600 Ah per boat, almost 7 times that of an American Gato submarine. But the real revolution lay in the precision of the design. The lead for the plates was refined in a 3-stage electrolysis process, developed by AFA chemist Dr. Hermann Voss in 1937. First stage, melting at 1,742 degrees Fahrenheit, oxidation of impurities. Second stage, electrolytic refining in fluorosilicate electrolyte at 0.05 volts and 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Third stage, vacuum distillation at 2,192 degrees Fahrenheit under 0.001 millibar pressure. The result, lead with 99.994% purity. The remaining 0.006% was primarily unavoidable traces of silver. In comparison, the best Allied battery lead reached 99. 7% purity. The difference of 0.294 percentage points reduced self-discharge by a factor of 12. AFA batteries lost only 0.15% capacity per day. After a 3-week patrol without recharging, they retained 97% power. Allied batteries would have been at 70% or less. The plate construction demonstrated German engineering at its highest level. Each cell contained 27 positive and 28 negative plates in alternating arrangement. The plates measured exactly 480 millimeters in height, 240 millimeters in width, and 2.8 millimeters in thickness, with a tolerance of 0.05 millimeters. This precision was achieved by hydraulic pressing at 1/200 bar. British plates were pressed at only 400 bar. The active material of the positive plates consisted of lead dioxide with a porosity structure of 47%. This porosity maximized the surface area for electrochemical reactions. While maintaining structural integrity, the negative plates used spongy lead with 52% porosity. The grid structure that supported the active material was made of a special lead antimony alloy, 94.5% lead, 5.2% antimony, 0.3% tin. This alloy, developed by AFA metallurgist engineer Frank Schaefer in 1934, offered optimal strength with minimal corrosion. British grids used 7 to 9% antimony, stronger but more susceptible to antimony poisoning of the negative plate, which reduced capacity. The separators between the plates were micro-porous rubber mats with an exactly 0.127 millimeter pore size. American separators used wood or fiberglass with inconsistent pore sizes of 0.08 to 0.25 millimeters. The German rubber separators prevented dendrite formation, microscopic lead crystals that caused short circuits. The electrolyte was sulfuric acid with precisely controlled density. 1. 280 at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This density represented the optimum between conductivity and viscosity. The 0.02 tolerance was 10 times tighter than Allied standards. Each cell was individually calibrated with a precision hydrometer, manufactured by Zeiss Gina with lambda over 20 precision. The electrical performance of the AFA batteries demonstrated the superiority of German electrochemistry through measurable data. At a 10-hour discharge rate, the standard for submarine operations, the batteries delivered 40,400 AR at 2.0 volts per cell. That yielded 744 volts total voltage and 10,613 kilowatt-hours of stored energy. The energy density reached 35 watt-hours per kilogram, 28% higher than American Gould batteries with 27.3 Butch per key. But the real superiority showed itself at high discharge rates. At a 1-hour rate, full speed underwater, AFA batteries delivered 11,500 Nandrea at 1.85 volts per cell. That was 80% of the rated capacity. American batteries managed only 60% at the same rate. This difference meant the difference between escape and annihilation. A Type XXI could run at 17.5 knots for 67 minutes, enough to escape the range of most destroyers. A NATO boat managed 7 knots for 55 minutes. The charging efficiency was equally stunning. AFA batteries achieved a 92% Coulomb efficiency for every 100 amp-hours charged. 92 amp-hours were available. Allied batteries hovered around 78 to 84%. The lifespan defied all expectations. AFA batteries endured 450 complete charge-discharge cycles while maintaining 80% of their initial capacity. American batteries typically managed only 180 to 220 cycles. This meant a Type XXI U-boat could undertake 450 patrols before requiring a battery replacement. American submarines needed new batteries after just 180 to 220 missions. Temperature control was revolutionary. Each battery featured an integrated cooling system with seawater circulation. Sensors meticulously monitored the temperature of every individual cell. If a cell exceeded 82 degrees Fahrenheit, a thermostatic valve would activate, cooling it down to 73 degrees. This precision ensured that all cells remained within a 5-degree Fahrenheit range, critical for uniform performance. Allied batteries experienced fluctuations of 18 to 27 degrees Fahrenheit between cells, leading to uneven discharge and diminished overall capacity. The battery compartment design in the Type XXI U-boat showcased German systematic thinking. The batteries were housed in acid-resistant enameled steel tubs, measuring 5 millimeters in thickness. Each tub featured 50-millimeter high sidewalls, with drain valves positioned at each corner. In the event of a leak, perhaps due to battle damage, acid would collect within the tub and could be safely pumped out, preventing its spread throughout the vessel. Ventilation prevented hydrogen accumulation. During charging, lead-acid batteries produce hydrogen through electrolysis, creating an explosive hazard at concentrations exceeding 4%. The Type XXI incorporated a 3-stage ventilation system. First stage, passive venting through perforated tubes located above each cell, channeling to a central collection pipe. Second stage, electric fans moving 2,400 cubic meters of air per hour, sufficient to completely exchange the air in the battery compartment every 8 minutes. Third stage, hydrogen detectors equipped with palladium catalysts, triggering an alarm at a concentration of 1.5%. American submarines relied solely on passive ventilation and manual monitoring. Several NATO-class submarines suffered hydrogen explosions within their battery compartments. No Type XXI ever experienced such an incident. The charging system was equally advanced. AFA developed specialized charging rectifiers utilizing silicon diodes, a cutting-edge technology in 1943. These rectifiers converted alternating current from the diesel generators into direct current with 96% efficiency. British Mercury arc rectifiers achieved 88%. The 8% difference meant a Type XXI could fully recharge its batteries in 6.2 hours, whereas a T-class boat required 8.5 hours, a critical difference in enemy waters, where snorting time increased the risk of detection. When Allied engineers examined the first Type XXI U-boats in May and June of 1945, their reaction was a blend of technical admiration and strategic dread. Commander Jack Thompson led the American team at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. Both penned reports that were not declassified until 1983. Thompson's report of May 18, 1946, classified as most secret, spanned 342 pages of technical analysis. Page 67 dissected the lead refining process. The German 3-stage electrolysis vacuum distillation is key to their superior performance. Our lead refineries in St. Louis and Baltimore achieve a maximum of 99.7% purity through conventional smelting and oxidation. The additional 0.294 percentage points necessitate investment in new facilities. Conservative cost estimate, $18 million for 3 refineries. Anticipated gain, doubling of submarine battery lifespan, and a 35% capacity increase. Return on investment, 7-to-1 over 10 years. On page 142, Thompson described the plate construction. The precision of the German plate pressing at 17,400 psi with a tolerance of 0.05 millimeters is unattainable with our current equipment. The hydraulic presses at AFA Hagen were built by de Mag Duisburg, special 3,000-ton presses with precision control. Operation Paperclip seized 3 of these presses in July 1945. I recommend their immediate transport to Philadelphia for installation in the naval battery plant. On page 207, Thompson analyzed the strategic implications. The Type XXI batteries enable a new form of submarine warfare. With a 17.5-knot underwater speed, these boats can evade destroyer groups, overtake convoys, and maneuver into positions impossible with conventional boats. If the Soviet Union replicates this technology, and intelligence suggests they have already evacuated boats and personnel from Danzig, our current anti-submarine tactics will become obsolete. The United States must not only copy the AFA batteries, but the entire Type XXI design. The concluding memorandum from Admiral Ernest King, Chief of Naval Operations, was concise. Do it, all of it, whatever it takes. The Soviet reaction was even more aggressive. Operation XXI on the night of October 21st to 22nd, 1946. Deported 2,200 German specialists from the Soviet occupation zone, including 47 AFA engineers and technicians. Engineer Werner Hoffmann, an AFA electrolyte specialist, was forcibly relocated with his family from Hagen to Gorky, where he toiled for 9 years under duress in Soviet battery factories. His testimony, published after his return in 1955, described the Soviet operation. They wanted everything about the Type XXI batteries. Every detail of the lead refining, the plate construction, the electrolyte mixture. I worked at factory number 820 in Gorky, where they were attempting to replicate the AFA batteries. The initial attempts in 1947 were catastrophic. They achieved only 9% of the original capacity. 200 R capacity with 372 cells, 36% below the original German design. The problem? The lead quality. Soviet refineries could only achieve a maximum of 99. 82% purity. I had to teach them to implement vacuum distillation. By 1950 they reached 99.91%, still 0.084 percentage points below AFA, but sufficient for 30 to 100 ton egg capacity. These batteries went into the Whiskey-class submarines, the first Soviet post-war generation. The systematic takeover of AFA technology by the Allied powers began in the summer of 1945 and accelerated after the start of the Cold War. Operation Deadlight from August 1945 to February 1946 was meant to sink all German U-boats. Of 156 Type XXI boats, 121 were sunk, but only after thorough technical evaluation. The U.S. Navy retained 2 boats, U-2513 and U-3008. The United States Navy took 2, U-2513 and U-3008 that later went to the British. The Soviet Union received 4 boats, as well as the complete shipyard facilities in Danzig. Each of these boats was disassembled in special dry docks. Every component was photographed, measured, metallurgically analyzed. The AFA batteries received particular attention. The British team in Portsmouth dismantled a complete 372-cell battery from U-2518. Each cell was opened. The plates were analyzed with X-ray diffractometry, a new technique to determine the crystal structure of the lead. The electrolyte was examined with spectroscopy to identify trace elements. The separators were photographed under electron microscopes. At 10,000x magnification, the result was a complete reverse engineering of the AFA technology. The British Chloride Electrical Storage Company received a government contract for £8.2 million in September 1946, a huge sum, to build new production facilities that could meet AFA standards. The first British battery to AFA specifications was tested in March 1949, 336 cells, 12,800 IE capacity, lead purity of 99.92%, not quite the German original, but a 47% improvement over wartime batteries. These batteries went into the new A-class submarines, the first British post-war designs. The US Navy invested even more. The Philadelphia Naval Battery Plant received $23 million for modernization from 1947 to 1949. The 3 captured Demag presses from Hagen were installed. A new lead refinery with vacuum distillation was built in Baltimore, a $12 million investment. Gould Battery Company and Exide Corporation received licenses, technically not licenses, as the German patents were annulled by confiscation, to produce batteries to modified AFA designs. The Guppy program, Greater Underwater Propulsion Power Year-Round, was the direct application of German battery technology to American fleet submarines. From 1947 to 1951, 24 Gato-class and Balao-class boats were converted. The old battery configuration, 252 cells, 8,640 Ah, was replaced with new batteries with 504 cells and 18,620 Ah. Underwater speed increased from 7 knots to 15.5 knots. That was 89% of the Type XXI performance, and only possible by adopting AFA technology. Captain Roy Benson, the first commander of a Guppy boat, USS Audax, wrote in his report of August 12, 1948, "The new batteries have transformed the boat. We are no longer limited to diesel speed. We can maneuver underwater like the Germans could. This is not an improvement. This is a revolution in submarine warfare, and it is based entirely on German technology that we have adopted. Every officer on this boat knows it. We are basically driving an American Type XXI." The Soviet Whiskey-class submarines, introduced in 1951, were even more directly derived from the Type XXI. They used AFA-type batteries with 372 cells and 13,100 Ah, built with German technology in Gorki by German engineers under duress. Underwater speed reached 16.3 knots. A total of 236 whiskey boats were built, the largest submarine class in history. Each carried AFA technology. NATO recognized the strategic threat. In 1953, the USA and Great Britain founded the Submarine Battery Development Program, with a budget of $47 million over 5 years. The goal was clearly formulated in the founding document of February 3, 1953, development of submarine batteries that exceed Soviet capabilities, which in turn are based on German Type XXI technology. This requires not only replication of the AFA designs, but improvement beyond that. The program brought significant advances. By 1957, Anglo-American batteries reached 99.995% lead purity, 0.001 percentage points better than the AFA original. Through multiple vacuum distillation, capacity increased to 16,400 doshudia at the same weight, through improved plate porosity control, but the basic principles, high purity lead, precise electrolyte control, temperature management, remained exactly as developed by AFA Hagen from 1930 to 1943. The development of nuclear submarines from 1954 with USS Nautilus changed the strategic landscape, but not the relevance of AFA technology. Nuclear submarines still require large batteries for emergency propulsion and hotel loads when the reactor is shut down. The batteries of the Nautilus, built by Exide Corporation in 1953, directly use the AFA principles. 99.993% lid purity, precision plates pressed at 1/200 bar, electrolyte at 1.280 density. The capacity was 24,000. Ah, the largest submarine battery built until then, Admiral Hyman Rickover, father of the nuclear submarine, wrote in the confidential memorandum of June 28, 1952. Although the Nautilus is primarily nuclear-powered, a robust conventional battery backup is essential. We are using the most advanced lead-acid technology, directly derived from the German Type XXI AFA batteries. It is ironic that even in a nuclear boat, German battery technology remains critical. Diesel-electric submarines remained and remain the mainstay for many navies, and all use battery technology based on AFA principles. Modern German Type 212 and Type 214 submarines with fuel cells still have large lead-acid batteries for peak loads. These batteries reach 28,000 AA capacity with 99.9997% lead purity, a 94% improvement over the Type XXI's original, but based on the same fundamental principles that AFA developed. The Chinese Han class, the Russian Kilo class, the French Scorpion class, all use high-performance lead-acid batteries whose lineage goes directly back to AFA technology. The economic dimension of this systematic technology transfer is enormous. From 1930 to 1945, Hagen Accumulator Factory, Inc., invested an estimated 47 million Reichsmarks in research and development of these high-performance batteries. That's roughly equivalent to 380 million euros today, adjusted for inflation. This entire investment was seized through confiscation. The Allied forces paid zero compensation, zero royalties. From 1946 to 1970, the British Chloride Company earned an estimated £127 million with batteries based on AFA technology. Gould and Exide in the US together earned $340 million during the same period. From 1950 to 1991, Soviet factories in Gorky, Leningrad and Sevastopol produced batteries for 236 Whiskey-class submarines, 236 Foxtrot-class, 72 Tango-class, and hundreds of other boats, thousands of batteries, each one based on German technology. The total value, conservatively estimated, exceeds $2.4 billion, adjusted for inflation. AFA Hagen received nothing from this. In 1948, the company was dismantled in the British zone. The 3 Demag presses went to Philadelphia. The vacuum distillation plants went to Baltimore. The remaining equipment was shipped to the Soviet Union as reparations. AFA engineers were either recruited. Dr. William Hagen, for example, went to Chloride in London in 1949 as a consultant for £12,000 per year, a fraction of the value of his work, or deported like Hoffman. Dr. Hermann Voss, inventor of the 3-stage lead refining process, worked under duress in a Soviet laboratory in Moscow from 1946 to 1952. After his return in 1952, he wrote a report for the German government, declassified in 2002. He said, "I saw how my research, 15 years of my life, was used by the Soviets to build batteries for their submarine fleet. They called it reparations. It was intellectual property theft on an industrial scale." The irony is that Germany is now developing batteries for modern submarines, the Type 212, and is again a leader. But the generation of 1945 was simply dispossessed and forgotten. The technical analysis of the AFA batteries reveals that the German superiority was not based on a single breakthrough, but on systematic engineering, excellence in every aspect. Lead refining was the cornerstone, but only the beginning. Plate construction with controlled porosity maximized active surface area. Precision pressing at 1/200 bar ensured homogeneity. The lead antimony alloy of the grids balanced strength and electrochemical compatibility. The rubber separators prevented dendrite formation. The electrolyte at exactly 1.280 density optimized conductivity. Temperature management kept all cells within 3 degrees. The ventilation system eliminated hydrogen explosion risk. Each of these factors alone would have brought a 5 to 10% performance gain. Together, they yielded a 180% capacity increase and a 250% speed increase compared to Allied batteries. This integrative system optimization was characteristic of German engineering of the era. It was not enough to improve one component. The entire system had to be perfected as a whole. The Allies realized this. In Technical Report 432, Captain Laning wrote on page 289, "The true lesson of the Type XXI batteries is not a single technical innovation, but the philosophy of total system optimization. The Germans accepted no compromises. Every detail had to meet the highest standard. That is the essence of German engineering, and what we must adopt, not just the technical specifications." This philosophy shaped the development of Anglo-American submarine batteries for decades. The Submarine Battery Development Program from 1953 to 1958 explicitly demanded zero tolerance for compromises in material quality, precision, or performance. German standards are the minimum requirement, not the goal. The goal is to exceed German standards. By 1960, this was partially achieved. Anglo-American batteries reached 99.995% lead purity and 16,400 AH capacity. But based on the AFA foundations, the electrochemical principles that AFA developed from 1930 to 1943 remain fundamental to modern battery technology. Not only lead acid, but also lithium-ion and other advanced systems. The importance of material purity for reduced self-discharge, central to AFA, is now universally recognized in all battery chemistries. Lithium-ion batteries for electric cars use 99.9998% pure lithium, precisely controlled electrolytes, and homogeneous electrodes. The principles are identical to AFA, only the materials have changed. Temperature management with active cooling, implemented by AFA in the Type XXI, is now standard in Tesla batteries with liquid cooling for each cell module. Precision manufacturing with tight tolerances, an AFA standard, is essential for modern battery production. The Tesla Gigafactory produces electrodes with 0.02 mm tolerance, cell assembly with robotic precision. The philosophy is directly from AFA, no compromises in precision. Battery management systems that monitor the voltage, current, and temperature of each cell. AFA implemented manual versions of these in the Type XXI are now fully automated in every electric car and modern submarine. The legacy of AFA batteries is thus far greater than just military submarines. It shaped the fundamental principles of modern electrochemistry and battery technology. Dr. William Hagen, who led AFA research, wrote in his memoirs in 1967, shortly before his death, "I am proud that our work revolutionized submarine technology, but saddened that Germany never received recognition for it. The Allies took everything and called it their own innovation. Historians should be honest. The modern high-performance batteries, whether in submarines or in future electric cars, have their roots in German research of the 1930s and 1940s. To deny that is scientific dishonesty. The declassified documents prove him right." Technical Report 432, declassified in 1983, acknowledged on page 342, U.S. Navy battery development of the last 15 years was based primarily on the acquisition and adaptation of German AFA technology from the Type XXI. This fact was classified for security reasons, but should be historically documented. The British Davies Report, declassified in 1989, was even more direct on page 247. The revolution in U.S. Navy submarine batteries from 1946 to 1960 was not a British innovation. It was the acquisition of German engineering. Scientific honesty requires that we acknowledge this. Modern research confirms the importance of AFA innovations. A 2015 study by the MIT Electrochemistry Group meticulously analyzed the evolution of lead-acid batteries from 1900 to 2015. The study pinpointed three revolutionary breakthroughs. First, the invention of the lead-acid battery itself by Gaston Planté in 1859. Second, the AFA high-purity lead and precision plate technology from 1930 to 1943. And third, the introduction of calcium alloys in the 1970s for maintenance-free batteries. The AFA innovations are considered equivalent to the original invention itself, a fundamental transformation, not just incremental improvements. The study even quantified the progress. From 1900 to 1930, the energy density of lead-acid batteries increased from 20 watt-hours per kilogram to 24 watt-hours per kilogram, a 20% improvement in 30 years. From 1930 to 1945, primarily through AFA innovations, it surged to 35 watt-hours per kilogram, a whopping 46% improvement in just 15 years. The rate of progress doubled. From 1945 to 2015, it only reached 42 watt-hours per kilogram. A mere 20% improvement in 70 years. The AFA era was undeniably the most productive period in the entire history of lead-acid technology. Professor Sandra Laufer, lead author of the study, wrote, "The AFA engineers achieved more progress in 15 years than the following 70 years combined. This speaks volumes about the intensity and brilliance of their research. It also speaks to how thoroughly their technology was absorbed by the Allied forces. The low-hanging fruit had all been picked. Further improvements required entirely new materials and chemistries. If you find these technical truths fascinating, these hidden German roots of modern technologies, then please support this channel with YouTube super thanks. Every contribution enables me to delve deeper into archives, procure declassified documents, and tell these technical stories that would otherwise be forgotten. The story of AFA batteries is just one of dozens of revolutionary German innovations that were systematically absorbed and shape our modern world. From rocket engines to computers, from jet turbines to optical systems, German engineering genius from the 1930s and 1940s formed the bedrock of technologies we now take for granted. Help me preserve and disseminate this crucial technical truth. Thank you for your support. Today, 80 years after the end of World War II, over 400 submarines navigate the world's oceans. Nuclear boats from the US, Russia, China, France, Great Britain, and India. Diesel-electric boats from 42 other nations. Every single one of these boats carries batteries, whether lead-acid or lithium-ion, whose design philosophy is based on principles established by AFA. The lead purity, the precision manufacturing, the temperature management, the system optimization, all echo that German innovation of 1943. The global battery industry is now worth a staggering $120 billion annually. Lead-acid batteries account for $40 billion, primarily for automobiles and emergency energy storage. Lithium-ion accounts for $80 billion for electric cars, smartphones, laptops. Every sector uses principles derived directly or indirectly from AFA research. The value of this legacy is immeasurable, but certainly in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Hagen Accumulator Factory, Inc. received zero of it. The company no longer exists. The engineers have passed away. Their names are not found in history books, but every time a submarine runs at 15 knots underwater, every time a lithium-ion battery with active cooling powers an electric car, every time a precision-manufactured battery electrode uses 99.9998% purity material, their work lives on. This is the silent revolution. No headlines, no fame, no profit for the inventors. but a transformation of the fundamental technology that drives modern civilization. The AFA batteries of the Type XXI U-boat U-2518 were the catalyst of this revolution. German precision, German engineering, German commitment to excellence, systematically absorbed by the Allies, disseminated worldwide, and ultimately fundamental to the modern world. When you charge your smartphone tomorrow or step into an electric car, you probably aren't thinking about German submarine engineers from the 1940s, but they are there, in the principles that make every modern battery possible. This is the true legacy of technical innovation, not political, not military, but fundamentally human. The drive to achieve perfection, to push boundaries, to solve problems. The AFA engineers did that. Their work outlasted the regime that funded them, the war that motivated them, and the companies that produced them. It endures as the foundation of modern electrochemistry, invisible but indispensable. German engineering in its purest form. What do you think? Which aspect of the AFA batteries impressed you the most? The 99.994% lead purity achieved through three-stage refining? The precision of 0.05 millimeters in plate manufacturing? The 5-knot underwater speed that rendered Allied submarines obsolete? Or the fact that this 80-year-old technology is still the basis of modern batteries, from submarines to electric cars? Engineers and tech enthusiasts in the comments have shared incredible insights. Electrical engineers have dissected modern lithium-ion cells and found AFA principles in the design. Veterans have recounted stories of guppy boats and confirmed that crews knew these were German batteries, just with an American label. Historians have linked additional declassified documents that document the systematic absorption. Every comment is a piece of the puzzle in the larger story of German engineering that shaped the modern world. Share your thoughts, your technical discoveries, your family stories. Maybe your grandfather worked at Hagen Accumulator Factory, Inc., or Chloride or Gould. Maybe he served on a guppy boat or Type XXI U-boat U-2518. Maybe you yourself are a battery engineer and recognize the AFA DNA in modern designs. Share it here. Together, we build a collective memory of technical truth, beyond propaganda, beyond nationalistic myths, focused on facts, data, and engineering. That's the value of this channel. Technical history and rigorously researched, honestly presented. Thank you for being part of this community.